Good afternoon. This Township Council meeting for Wednesday, October the 15th, Selwyn will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council staff and members of the public can directly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Members of the public, staff, and presenters, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Before we begin our regular scheduled meeting, I'd like to make a statement on behalf of Selwyn Township. I want to express my deepest concern and heartfelt sympathy to all those affected by the devastating fire that occurred on October the 9th in downtown Lakeville. The fire that engulfed the historic building at 24 Queen Street, home to Ortha Home Hardware and several residential units, has caused a profound sense of loss throughout our community. This building was not only a place of business and residence, it was a cherished part of Lakeville's heritage and identity. Our thoughts are with the tenants who have lost their homes, the employees and owners of Kawartha Home Hardware, whose livelihoods have been disrupted, and all those who have been directly impacted by this tragedy. We're deeply grateful to all of the firefighters, first responders, and emergency personnel who acted with courage and professionalism to contain the blaze and prevent further loss. The damage to this iconic structure was extensive, and we learned that the building needed to be demolished. And I thank staff for their expedience in making this happen because of the safety concerns. I've spoken with the building owners who assured the replacement will honor what was. While this news is difficult to accept, we're reminded that the true heart of Lakeville lies not in its buildings, but in the strength, compassion, and resilience of its people. In the days since the fire, we've already seen our community come together in remarkable ways, offering shelter, supplies, donations, and emotional support to those in need. The spirit of unity embodies what makes Lakefield and the rest of our Selwyn so special. The township will continue to work closely with the local agencies, business owners, and residents to ensure that those affected receive the support they need and that our downtown remains a vibrant and welcoming place for all. Together, we will rebuild, recover, and honor the history that binds us as a community. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will go to the minutes of September the 23rd. Looking for someone to move and second them. Moved by Councillor Boyko, second by Councillor Henry, all in favor. That is carried. Is there any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none, were there any questions that came forward, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to our first municipal officer report. Janice LaValle, Chief Administrative Officer for our third quarter reports. Janice.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So your third quarter reports are here for your consideration. Certainly it has been another busy few quarters of the year. There always seems to be something that is impacting our day-to-day work. And I just again would like to extend the thanks to all of our managers and staff for continuing to get things done in the midst of all the challenges we've had this year. Managers are here, so if you have any questions, particularly for any of the work plans, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
for them department by department. And I will ask if there's any questions or comments as we move through them. First one's for the Chief Administrative Officer. Questions or comments? Building and Planning Department. Corporate and Community Services Clerks Department. Deputy Mayor Blake.
Sure. I've asked to see if we could get more statistics based on stops. Because there was a number of comments in the last report from the consultants that there was heavy use from the Woodland Acres area, and I wanted to understand what impact that is having on the overall stats for the program, and whether that is those folks just aren't walking across to the college, they're jumping on the bus when it comes by, and that's not really necessarily the function that we're really looking for, because it doesn't really address the more rural parts of the township. So I would still really like to see some of those stats before we have to make a decision on this as well. I'm not sure how that can be achieved, but possibly talking to the city bus folks, whether they can do a chart of some sort. I know when you go on tours, the bus guy is on 2 on 3 off, they've got a list of stops and they list how many are on, how many are off, which would give us a better picture of where the volume is coming from, which stops are important. Because I think, as we get closer to the decision, we're gonna have to decide on routes, whether it's still a bus route or whether it's a shared service of some sort, like they have in Oro-Medonte. We're gonna have to look at different options, because the cost is significant to move forward with it as a municipal. But
Madam Clerk.
Yes, through you. We actually were able to get some specific stop data, so we do have some of that. It's quite extensive, so we're trying to look at patterns. So we've taken a look at a few different months in the year to try to establish some baseline statistics. So we'll be able to provide some of that information that you're looking for.
thank you.
Are there any other questions on the Corporate and Community Services / Clerks Department? Seeing none, we'll move on to Financial Services. Questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Fire Department. Questions? Councilor Boyd.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I was just wondering if this doesn't have anything to do with exactly what is on the report, but I wonder if, since we have our fire chief here, is there's anything more that he would like to add about new information with respect to the fire? And if you'd like to say it all.
Through Madam Mayor, at this point, we're still gathering names and information. And it's actually called Peterborough Police this morning that what we're hearing, all kinds of stories, and substantiated or not, that's going to be out of our hands now. So yeah, I want to get serious when there's a lot of things involved that other than just cooking certain things. So at this point, yeah, so they've got to start, talking to some people that are saying things. And so I'm waiting for a call. So let's say that. At this point, we don't know how it started or anything else yet. But it was burning a long time before 911 was called. So there's some discrepancy there. So one tenant needs to have a chat with it. It's getting kind of sketchy what we're hearing. Yes. That's about all I would say for that. Other than I'll tell you, we got some good firefighters and we work well. The county chiefs all showed up, but three, the county chiefs and deputies. And a lot of them showed up the next day too, and helped look after the crews and that. So, no, work well together. It was quite something to see. Especially when a good chunk of Lakefield is burning and everybody knows the building. So, yeah, it was it was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for the fire department as far as the work plan goes? None, we'll move on to human relations. Sorry, human resources. Right in, but there. Are there any questions? Yeah. Library services. Mr. Boyko.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The note, and I think I understand it, but I want to make sure that I do. It says on the second bullet, continue to expand digital literacy programs into the with local schools. So I wonder if you could explain what that entails and how it's going. Are you happy with how it's going? Is there more room for growth? Just comments that you'd like to make about that program.
So through you, what we primarily do with the schools in terms of digital literacy is some STEM workshops. So they've been focused in Lakefield over the past year. Kathleen and I sat down during her performance evaluation just to kind of discuss that. So I think we're going to focus on a specific grade. So it'll be grade 3 in all of the different communities, and it'll be just an intro to the library. Then we'll have the digital literacy aspect and we'll go in the maker space for that. So that's kind of where we're at with that now, and all that we really have the capacity to do. So at this time.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the library? None, we'll move on to parks. Questions? I actually have one, the very first bullet in this work plan. Pretty well mirrors a lot of what is in a motion we're going to be dealing with later. To do with the trail work and habitat restoration, closures, repairs, updated signage, forest management to the Ennismore Waterfront Park. Where do we sit with that? Because we do have outside partners.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So right now, several of the improvement aspects have been done. So we've done some mapping, we've done some walks, and we've done some closures because we actually have several outside partners. If we talk about the garden club and the access to the secret garden, or we talk about Fleming and the program they used to have prior to the last year and a bit. And then obviously Optimus, who have an interest, and Bell Rotary, who have a very strong interest in trails. So several of the tasks have been done where to reroute, to finish the mapping, we have to complete the rerouting of some of the boardwalk. And then mark the map and then produce the map. So we're in the middle of all of that. A lot of the sweat equity has been put in. I think we're gonna have to now put some green equity into it.
Hear you. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions with regards to Parks and Rec? So none, we'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Boyko.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The first bullet is about the landfill closing plan, and I know that we have heard about this in the past, but I'm wondering about updates. I'm wondering with respect to the predicted or projected closing date, has that changed at all? And another thing is there a plan for opening a new site, for extending this site to expand its life, and a process that would involve that? So basically, I'm looking for a little bit more detail with respect to the landfill closing plan and any comments that could be made.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Counselor Boyko, yep, so it's kind of a moving target with the landfill closing date right now based on average annual deposits. We're looking at about 12 years left in the life cycle of a landfill. That number changes to rolling average, so it's depending on the amount of diversion we have every year. There's a couple different options as far as landfill closing options, so on my work plan next year, actually, we were just talking a couple weeks ago about it, looking at engaging Cambium, likely to look at some consulting because before you look at another site, you look at maximizing or optimizing the existing site. So there are different options as far as expanding vertically or horizontally. Typically, we keep the footprint and we go vertically. In that process, it's basically an environmental assessment or an amendment to an existing environmental assessment. But we are working through that process. It's kind of an ongoing thing.
If I could do a follow, so working with, through you, Mayor, Senis, so working with Cambium, so that work will be done next year, because looking at 12 years out, 12 years is going to happen quickly. So a lot of that work will be done next year to look
In
at
the
options.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in the coming years, yeah. So in the EA, it says you need to notify the ministry within 2 years of the proposal, but obviously consultation takes much more time. So I think it's about 5 to 7 years would be the consultation process. So within the next couple of years, we are looking at kind of bringing the plan forward. So we'd be talking with Cambium, then bringing something back to council for support on the direction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Works? I do have one. On the weekend, I was asked by the demolition company if they would be able to bring some of their construction materials that they're taking out of the fire to our landfill. We definitely aren't doing that, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, we are not accepting that right now. We do have restrictions within our ECA. So I believe, and I was on site as well, and the demolition company actually never asked me that question. But they are taking it, I believe, to County Road 6 to the transfer station.
That's the trouble when you there, catch up, ask it. Anyway.
Yeah, I was there all weekend too.
Yeah, okay. So we have gone through them all for the different departments. There's a recommendation to receive them for information by Councillor Boyko, second by Councillor Poulos, all in favor. Carried. Thank you much. Report from Lane with regards to the 2025 third quarter finance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just providing a third quarter report for council's review. This builds on the last two reports that came to council. And we've tried to look department by department at anomalies or things that are maybe a little apart from budget, and also provide some of those comments to council. So I'll just leave it there, and then any of the other department heads are here to answer as well.
Questions of Lane?
Thank you, through your Mayor. Thanks for the report, Lee. Just with respect to Department 5, interest receipts show higher than expected the year, and adjustment related to water and sewer utilities funds. Bring this estimate back in mind. What's the relationship there? And
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. We hold water and sewer reserves in a high savings account.
okay,
And so we make adjustments throughout the year on all that, but at the very end of the year, whatever the balance is, it's there, we adjust for the years, we take a look at the current status of capital projects, things like that. And we make that adjustment at the end for water and sewer holdings. So that has to actually go back to the specific water and sewer department. So once we make those adjustments, then we would anticipate at this point that things are going to be right back.
follow up just yeah, so so the term interest receipts, that was more general related to all our investments.
Right.
But the ones particular to the water and sewer, will just level off that was really good. Okay, so I just was confused between we're all for the utilities. The other part of that piece is the tax related penalties and interest are higher than expected, reflecting the status of current tax arrears. As shown here, are we seeing an increase in tax arrears? township.
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we've seen that escalate really since COVID, but we've been trying to address that in terms of collections of the different things we've been doing. We have sent out our first batch of tax sale properties for the first time since COVID. Well, we've been monitoring and having different adjustments. We've set our first, I think it's the 25 go to our tax sale company, we started that circulation. So we anticipate the last quarter this year, more folks will come in, hopefully set up payment arrangements.
Any other questions of late? Seeing none, I need someone to hold the foundation, receive it. Deputy Mayor Black, Sir Poulos, all in favor. Very thank you. Now move on to Angela Chivik and Port of Home Energy Retro.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. It seems like forever ago, but last October, council will remember that we had the results of the feasibility study for a possible home energy retrofit program that we could implement in the township. You'll recall that we worked with Clean Air Partnership with some money from FCM to do that program. I've outlined a little bit of back and forth there, but essentially we were kind of told you should apply, and then they told us to wait, and then they told us to apply. So we did make an application in September. It's actually already gone through a pre-screening process, and we've had positive feedback on the application. One thing they are asking is for the municipality to confirm its funding commitment, and they wanted that set out in a very specific way in a resolution. So the resolution that's in the report will meet their requirements to have the application proceed to the next steps. So you'll remember that the township's contribution, which will be valued at 1.5 million, will be in the form of loans that'll be provided to the homeowners that will benefit from the program. So I have set that out a little bit in detail in terms of the financial impact. Happy to take any questions, but as I said, this is really just to move us through to the next step in order for us to be considered for this grant. If we were successful, in all likelihood, we would hear hopefully in Q1 of 2026, and then we can start to work our way through implementing a program if we're successful.
Are there any questions, Evange?
Thank you to your worship. So with respect to the 1.5 million to be loaned out, be paid back to a plan with their taxes. How is the interest rate determined on that? Is it floating? Is it fixed? That's
Through you, Madam Chair, it will actually be determined through the Green Municipal Fund. So they establish what the rate is. Typically, it's a lower interest rate. They've given us an estimate this year of 2.5%, but it will just depend on whatever their loan rate is. You will note as well that we're hopeful to have a program of no interest for qualified homeowners. So then if we're able to get a full grant from FCM, the value of that interest relief would be received through a grant. But it would be a benefit, obviously, to the homeowner to have a interest-free loan to do some of these improvements.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm looking for someone to approve the recommendation. Councillor Henry, Councillor Boyko, all in favor? It's carried. Now move on. That items, and I have had a request by Councillor Henry to pull 6, 1, and 3. Can I have someone move the balance of the consent items before we go on to the Deputy Mayor Black? Second by Sir Poulos, all in favor? Carried, thank you. So Councillor Henry, 6, 1.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. In the letter that Orca provided us, it did ask if we want Orca actually to do a presentation to us. No, we're just receiving this information at this point in time. However, moving forward, maybe we should respond with a request to have them come in presentation. I'd hate to see something like what happened before with the trailer park surprise us again this year in the budget.
All right, so you're making a motion that we invite Orchid to make a presentation.
I
correct?
certainly am, yes, correct.
Someone Second that, to Waco, Beaver. And item number 3, so.
Thank you again through you, Mayor Senes. I'm just wondering in the situation, can we at least, like I understand this is a county or a board directive with what's happening here. Is there a way that we can offer a letter of support to this group?
See a problem with that. It isn't just a county, it's county and the city. Yeah, they are meeting again. Just for your information, for all of council and staff, that particular committee has offered to have the groups that were affected by the latest decisions. It's mostly food banks, and I think there were only 2 nonprofits that were affected to come and give a presentation to that committee. From the way that the talk went around the table, if you go to the city side, I don't know if the decision will change, but they are offering to listen to. I don't see a problem with. I think, all in favor? All right, so we need both of those to be agenda, Councilor Poulos. Sir Henry seconding. This is for 613. All in favor? It's carried. We've been through this. All right. Under the other, and I'm sure we have special quad council established. Date is now.
Sorry, through you, I did, yes, I'm able to confirm it's 1 p.m. So if we could have a resolution just to confirm the time, that would be great.
Councilor Henry seconding, all in favor. Thank you. And we will now go to the notices of motion that are on our agenda. We'll start with Councilor.
Thank you through you, Mayor Senes. I take it everyone's taken the time to read through these, so I don't have to go through it here. I do want to make an amendment to it already, my own motion. Just simply that I believe in the motion I do refer to yeah, I directly refer to the Honorable Minister Jill Dunlop of Emergency Preparedness and Response. I think we should just strike her name from that because we see how often the province changes its mind on things and just make it the Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response.
It was about mics. Yeah, it's on, so. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, and at this time, not really looking for budget dollars to be allocated because there's a report back April that from a motion I brought forward that Bryden is working on for us here with his as our emergency and risk management advisor. He's going to be bringing a lot of information back to us. The information that I did send out had a lot of numbers in it. And if we did make our emergency management its own item within a budget, it shows that, you know, if we're supposed to be hitting $200,000, we've got quite a bit of money that's already directly allocated towards our emergency planning, which is just in different areas of our general operations. And it's possible that we may be able to find other monies that we're actually spending on our emergency operations that we have in different budget lines or departments at this point in time, especially after the final report comes in and the costs that were associated with the ice storm back in the spring.
So you're making the motion that is before us with the amendment to remove the name of the minister, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor
Right.
Sens.
Any comments, questions with regards to this motion? Council? Okay, seconded by, thank you, Councillor Boyko. Okay. Councillor Court.
I have notes. Can I have 30 seconds? I just want to find it. Yes, thank you. I think like after, I was going between both documents and I was trying to coordinate everything. Focusing on your motion, I think the only friendly amendment I would suggest is removing.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Could everybody just wait for one moment?
We have to overstay. Have to be able to lip read.
Test, test.
Sure, you just speak. You're right. Test, test. It's the mayor's mic that's not. All good.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mary.
Okay, now you were mid-sentence.
I was in the sentence. I know where I'm going with this. Through you. My only friendly amendment would be removing 2026 from the last point. And that's only because this is still a bill. It only passed first reading and after summer recess, they haven't come back to even do the second reading and there's a lot that's going to happen and it doesn't seem like they're pushing this one through. So my inkling is that you're not going to see regs until 2027. So I would hate for you to put a year here and that, you know, have an impact on this motion. in some way. So I would just remove the 2026.
And change it to something because it doesn't read right now.
Just put a period at the end of the word development.
And development.
Period.
All right.
You okay with that, mover? You okay with
I'm
that,
okay
seconder? Right, so it's amended to full stop after the word development in point number 5. All in favor? That is carried. Right, on to Councillor Boyko's first motion. Mr. Boyko.
Here it comes. Okay. Yeah, the two motions, neither of them is new, in that they are not new ideas. And that is what I mean, speaking specifically of the fire department motion, with all of the whereas statements, which I won't repeat, but they're there. It is something that we have already determined, through our strategic plan process that we should do. And what this is doing is essentially saying that let us make sure that there is money in the budget so that it can get done because it is important. The other thing that the motion is doing, it is linking two things together because they are together. That is meeting the 2022 fire regulations that are there and must be met according to provincial dictate. And the other thing that is linked to it is addressing the ongoing challenges, as it says, of recruitment, retention, and succession. Again, something that the fire department and HR has been working on. But let us make sure, this budget is saying, is that we have the budget allocation that is necessary, that we can carry on with this and make it happen. So I can reread the motion as is, or we can just pause now for questions or comments.
Anyone want the motion read? I'll have it in front of us. All right, so no, you don't have to, and I've got a Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through Mayor Sens. Just willing to second it.
Okay, so Henry seconds it, so it's open for discussion. Before I pass it on to my colleagues. I just have a concern because if we're to get this into this year's budget, we need the input from the fire chief and the deputy fire chief. And I know you've been very busy in the last little bit and we never know what tomorrow brings. It's going to take some time. So I guess I have to question the fire chief. Is this something that's doable for this year's budget?
Actually, I'm trying to work on this for the last couple of work sessions, so it's still involved. It's partially done. There's still a lot to it because it's a volunteer system. So, yeah, so it just, we haven't really put a cash value to it as such at this point, so. Yeah, that's,
But the budget is looming.
budget's moving. No, it's been actually working on your council's report and actually working on it right now, because I did get talking to the kind of worked out well. I was supposed to meet the Durham chief on Friday, and we did, under other circumstances, so. Anyway, so, yeah, so that's, hopefully you can I gotta get that tidied up this week. I'm away next week, so
So your
push
answer is
that in
yes?
through.
Your answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And a long way around.
All right, so we have the motion before us and it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Motion number 2, Councillor Boyd.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mayor Sanis, again, I won't go through all of the whereas statements, only to say that their purpose in being there is to say that there is nothing new, that what I am talking about in this motion is all through both our strategic plan and our recreational service plan. And notice that what I am saying is something that is already happening, but I want to make sure that there is, again, the budget in our 2026 budget that will allow it to happen and to move forward. And that is specifically that we establish, well, not establish, it's already established, but make intentional the links between Parks and Recreation, economic development, and community engagement. That projects such as the 2 that I'm listing, while they are Parks and Recreation, that economic development is involved, that community engagement is involved, as they are. But again, to make that intentional, so we make sure that it happens. And the way that it is done is the 2 that are already going on: the completion of the woods cleanup and the boardwalk restoration and the rest at the Ennismore Waterfront Park. Let's make sure that there is the money in the budget so that we can ensure that it will get done. The second, it has already begun with a public, not a public meeting, but a meeting of a number of interested members of the public with respect to the performance space in Isabel Morris Park. And we heard in that meeting that the first stage in making that happen is a feasibility study. So let's make sure that there is the money in the budget so that a feasibility can take place. The feasibility study may say, this is a great project and let's go forward with suggestions how to do it. The feasibility study may say, no, this is not a good project and we shouldn't carry it forward. That's the purpose of a feasibility study. So that is the purpose of the motion. Two projects to put that intentional connection between Parks and Recreation, economic development, community engagement that is already there, to make sure that it happens and continues to happen.
If I might ask Councillor Boyko that we could separate the 2 because they are separate projects, and speak to the first one and then speak to the second one.
2
in the
motions, sure.
motion?
Okay. Let me make the first motion then. I won't read the whole thing, but therefore be it resolved and A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, yeah,
Yeah, we all know
Okay.
what Wayne
All right.
means right in front of us.
talking about.
Sure.
I will open it. Oh, we need seconders, second by Deputy Mayor Black. I will pass it on to my colleagues. Phyllis?
Through you. I took time on this one because it is in my ward. So I do want to emphasize that this is already going on, right? So it's really just asking you to speed up the process, and there's a couple pieces here which make that problematic. So I'm going to go line by line. So like completing the woods cleanup.
there's so many different habitats that are in there and you're never gonna fully clean it up. Like, there's always gonna be something, right? So I'm just trying to like clarify that that can't be an end all be all ask. There's also life cycles of the terrestrial vegetation related to the habitat restoration we're doing that we'd have to carve out like what that looks like, and that's getting into the weeds. And there's also seasonal changes there. So just, making that clear. The boardwalk restoration, we are doing that in related to the accessibility trails mapping project. So if you update the signs before that's done, we're gonna have to go back and spend money updating the signs again. So that's where it's a chicken and an egg. We got to get some of the mapping done and some of the boardwalk stuff done. So that's where I'm just worried that if we push this through as a priority, you're gonna actually spend more. And I'm doing the accessibility stuff. We're doing that for free. I'm doing it as a volunteer. We have Trent as a volunteer for free using resources in kind. And the county's we've got 20 free hours free. It's already allotted to us that we're using for the mapping. So if we have to go back and update the mapping with extended hours and redo the signage, that's where we're going to see those costs. A real one here that's really problematic, especially with an election coming up, is the disc golf. So the history there, for those who don't know, the Optimist came to us and they raised the money. They put it in. This is their effort. So it's kind of a slap in the face to a community group to remove it. And my suggestion is that you look at putting a new one somewhere else instead of removing it, because it will also cost money. Anytime I'm there's somebody using it, not during the winter, like during the summer. On the weekends, I think we need a bigger parking lot if we're thinking about other things to do there. I've never heard of any complaints about the disc golf aside from what we heard from one individual during our open house in June. So I am unaware of other complaints, and bringing things together in that conversation. The accessibility trails, we're actually remapping some of the trails away from that. So if there are complaints, we're technically dealing with them that way. I'll just leave it there for anyone to respond. All right.
Respond to that if I could. Yeah, and that is why I worded it as I did. Completing the woods cleanup and the boardwalk restoration and the necessary directional alterations and signage improvements assumes everything that Councillor Koulis has just said. Assumes all of that. Were I to talk about each of the options and all of the work being done, this motion would be 3 pages long. So that's why I simply said complete it. Complete it with everything that Councillor Koulis just said. Absolutely. And I didn't, the motion also doesn't say remove the disc. It decided if it should, it's a deal. If it is, great. It stays exactly where it is. So that is why it is worded as it is, that we simply complete what has already been started with all of the processes and all of the people and all of the involvement. All that this is asking to do is that the money that is necessary to complete it with everything is there. That's all it's saying.
Right. I actually have something to say. As Councillor Koulis has already mentioned, the disc golf course is jointly owned by the township and the Optimist Club. The Optimist Club actually paid for it, and I agree with Councillor Koulis, it should be taken out of the motion altogether. You don't want to go there, as far as I'm concerned. And the other things that you're talking about, Councillor Boyko, are already in the work plan. And it involves third parties that we don't have control over. So I would suggest the whole motion would just be denied. Because we're already doing what you're asking for. I know you've got a little bit of wordsmithing there, but it's in the work plan. It's at the very top of the list, actually. So that means it's the priority. But
So therefore, because it's already in the work plan for I don't know what's in the work plan for 2026. We don't know yet. Assuming that this will be the work plan for 2026, should there be budget allocated to the completion of this project?
Well, with respect to like the woods cleanup, like that's always ongoing. It's always I mean, I should be speaking to staff. I'm sorry. But as far as we've seen in the work plan year to year, it's been there. And again, it's ongoing. You're never going to fully clean it up. And if you did, it would be degradation to the habitat, to the trails, to everything. So, but I do want to emphasize one other point, if I can, for you. Again, with the accessibility thing, I just want to put an emphasis on this is like, again, it's all free. If we come back and we have to ask for money to move forward, that whole project may not continue. So I would hate for us to sit here and be like, we decided this, the implication was we didn't go forward with making the trails more accessible. Because that would look real shitty going into 2022 elections.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you through your mayor. You know, I think one of the challenges with this particular situation is that I think this particular project's been around for a number of years since the Secret Garden was opened. I got lost in the trail system because the markers weren't clear to me. I hadn't been on it before to get to the Secret Garden. So I think this has been in the budget for 2 or 3 years now, maybe. I staff can correct me on that. And I think it's, you know, as Councillor Boyko is saying, you know, there's an economic impact to the township. This is a wonderful area, facility park that we need to get it moved along and get it done. Whether everything will be done 100%, we need it ready for next year. We've had, because it's been a problem for 3 or 4 years. So I don't know that, you know, and I know there's a lot of parts to it, but getting some signage up and some of the things done that the public can access it safely and not get lost in it, I think is important from safety, economic development, recreation, and a community engagement. We have to get it done.
Thank you, Councillor Crowell.
Just a question of staff. Do we have any complaints directly about this? I mean, like, we're packaging it as one thing, so I'm sorry to it complicates it that way, but do we have any complaints against the Ennismore waterfront in regards to anything, I guess?
Through you, Madam Mayor. To ask if we've had any complaints, the answer would be yes on every sidewalk, every trail, everything. But have we had a significant number? I'm only aware of one gentleman who's come in and complained about it. I certainly haven't received emails or other interactions like that. It hasn't been on the budget for years. It's been on work plan for several, but more from the perspective of forest management than trail. And that was because we had a great relationship with the Fleming College program, and they wanted to use it as a multi-year opportunity to teach, to see how things were going, because the plan that they had put forward for forest management, even if they had 100 students, we couldn't have completed in 1 year. And they were trying to show the effects for the students that were doing the 2-year program of good forest management and good woods control. So it hasn't, like, as far as budgetary, it hasn't been on a budget for years, and need to get done from that perspective. It has been in work plans, as I said, but not the working on boardwalk or working on the trail perspective. That's new this year from the work plan perspective. Is there, again, similar to what Councillor Kula said, because there's a great partnership and an opportunity here to do something that nobody else has done from the accessible perspective and the mapping perspective, we want to be very sensitive and good partners with them, because the physical attributes of the trail are important, but none of it works if we don't make sure that the layout is how it's actually, sorry, the layout is captured as it actually is, because it means nothing then if we create maps that we have that right now. And this would be why Deputy Mayor Black had challenges going through Some of the directional arrows, some of the mapping wasn't correct going back a decade. So we were trying to make sure that the same mistake isn't made again. We have a lot of volunteer and a lot of partnerships that we want to also take advantage of. And we want to make sure that since we're going to be the first of its kind with it fully accessible, we want to make sure that it's done correctly.
Thank you. Counselor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. So, thank you, Councilor Boyko, for bringing this forward and keeping it as simple as possible, but I can see it's not going to be simple on this motion because concerns are being risen due to our community partnerships, but also the environment and accessibility. I think the environment's going to have to be assessed first before we start charting trails through it, and then accessibility is second. Is there anyone present here at the moment that has an idea when an environmental assessment will be completed? And and same for the accessibility assessment, and can the two be ongoing at the same time so that we have an idea of how this would be moving forward?
I'd like to answer that. Janice?
Sure. So we're not really doing a formal environmental assessment. There is a trail system in there and there is some boardwalk through some wet areas. Certainly another partnership that's been in the past in this park. I'm not sure it still is in play, but certainly where there's that type of situation, we may rely on Orca for some advice in terms of how to deal with that type of area. Do you just avoid it? Do you do boardwalk over it? That sort of thing. So it's not an environmental assessment per se. It's just looking at the conditions and managing the trail as best possible to avoid really sensitive areas or construct in a way that it doesn't damage any areas. And I believe some of that work has been done in terms of rerouting where the trail goes. Mike, is that correct?
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor. It absolutely has. There's a seasonally very wet area that previously Dan Moraine and John Williams from Orca, we went through a decade ago and they were quite concerned about it then. So we do have it closed off now. It had always been part of the trail, but really it was one of the neighbors who's also on the gardening club was feeling very strongly about that. So we worked with all of those resources and made sure that that was closed off. We want to be very sensitive and very careful on, there's two boardwalk systems that run almost parallel to each other. And sometimes it's confusing to where they go. Those are the ones we need to reroute a little bit. And we want to make sure that we do it with the least impact possible and continue to use the same product, because one of the things about introducing any new, whether it's new wood, new treated product, it's better to stick with what's there and what nature has accepted versus introducing a whole lot of new. So absolutely environmental. It definitely isn't a true
Consideration.
assessment. It's more of a
Yeah.
Thank you. Follow up. Through Mayor Sennis. So how many groups do we have working on this project? Because sometimes good intentions go so far, but maybe we're slowing down the process. And is there a way to get them working together or meeting and creating an overall plan that engages all of them?
Through you, Madam Mayor, right now we actually don't have, because the program with the Fleming College has ended. We're not working with them at all on that aspect, that's part of the historical. So right now it really is the university and the garden club a little bit, but more on the south end where the secret garden is, and then township staff. So there aren't, right now, there's not, we would love to finish off exactly where it's going to go and then have a work day or a work week where the Optimist, Rotary and our own staff can go in. If we have to hire somebody because it's been deemed that that there's a little bit too much work to do on the boardwalk, then that's where budgets would come into play.
But, Counselor.
Sorry, I was just gonna flag the accessible playground is like a separate piece happening in the park. So again, it's another thing outside this conversation, but still should be relevant. And that's something else coming up that is another layer here, but. That's great.
Yeah, so I really appreciate this conversation. It's been terrific. And I think it goes back to supporting what I wrote. And that is, if I could add words that are unnecessary to the motion, but that we now, I think, understand. Completing the woods cleanup with all that that entails, with the environmental considerations, with the notion that we're not going to clear cut the thing. We're going to continue the cleanup with everything that is already being considered, continuing to be considered. Complete the boardwalk restoration in National Night with all that has been being considered and will be considered. The signage improvements need to be done after the sidewalk, obviously. If the decision is made that we don't want to look at the disc golf course, and the motion doesn't say remove it, it said decided if it's ideally located. If you would like that removed from the motion, I would happily remove that that phrase from the motion. Mike has said something that is really interesting. Yes, it's on the work plan, but it's not in the budget. All that this is doing is saying, let's make a budget line item so that we can make sure that we can carry on with this. It might not be completed in 26, but let's give it the money that it's determined that is necessary to move this forward. That's all this is saying.
I have a question, Mike, when I was talking about the work plan where this is, you made a comment that a lot of the work had been done with the groups, but now we needed green. I can't remember what your.
Instead of sweat
Yeah.
equity,
And
sorry.
so-
through you, Mayor.
Yes, sweat equity, and then you said green equity. Do you have an idea of what kind of money that entails? Like what kind of a dollar figure? Because I don't like, making decisions without having any idea as to what it's going to cost.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that I don't have a great idea. I think I've got an order of magnitude. It's not going to be $100,000, but would it be over 5? That likely it would be closer to that. 5,
5,000.
yes. Not 500,000, but 5,000. Yeah.
Councillor Black, or sorry, Deputy Mayor Black is next.
Thank you. Through Mayor Sennis. With respect to the budget, I asked that question a while back and around the signage, and I was told at that meeting that there was money in the budget for the signage this year.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not.
I read attention, that's why I said it was in the budget. Was a budget line in there for the park. And I was told it was for the signage. It was just for clarity.
Yeah. It's right.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. And that is why, if you look at the therefore phrase just up above, we are not saying if we pass this motion that we are saying this is the money. We don't know what the money is going to be yet. Mike doesn't know, but it says be it resolved the staff determined to report to council for its consideration what that budget will be. We're not voting on a budget right now. No.
I understand that, but I like to have an idea when I'm making a decision, what kind of money we're talking about. As Mike said, it's 100,000, it's 5,000, makes a big difference to me. So, and I think it's fair to ask that question.
Absolutely.
I think, as Councillor Boyko said, this has been a good discussion. And it gives good clarity to staff as to what we're looking for. But to support this, I am concerned. I don't want to jeopardize any partnerships we have. Councillor Koulis has been working on this already, involved in it with Trent. And I say that we know the project is ongoing. If we need some money, then staff can come back to us at the appropriate time. But let them finish the project they're doing, because Councillor Koulis has very defined ideas to the direction she's going. And I say, let them finish the project in the way that they were working on it. Am I going in the right direction with this, Counselor Poulos?
Yeah, sure. And again, this wasn't really my idea. It's been asked for by a member of the Accessibility Committee specifically. So I'm just helping carry it out on a volunteer basis, bring it to fruition. So if that clarifies that.
So it's a roundabout way to say staff has now heard from us. And I am of the opinion that I won't support a. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, Chair Mayor Sennis. I think the point, the motion is to have something come back to council during the budget, say, give Mr. Richardson some time to come up with the numbers, have it in the budget as an option. Council can decide at that point, that's too much money for this, at this point, or say yes or no. The problem with not having the money in the budget, now we're talking 2027 for it to happen. Because there won't be any money in the budget to fix the walkway. There won't be any money in the budget to do the sign. So if the project isn't ready next summer to get that work done, then it'll fall to 2027 at that point. But if we don't put something in the budget for 2026, it's going to be, you know, another 2 years before it gets resolved. That's my concern. We don't have, all we're asking for is today is get a price for us in the budget, and we can decide then whether we want to move forward with it. If we don't, then it's going to be 2027 before the project's done.
So I'd like to see the motion changed to reflect that, because what's before us is not.
I think what Councillor Black has said is exactly what the motion says. Completing the woods cleanup and the rest may take 2 or 3 years.
It's 2 years.
Well, or it may take 6 months. We don't know. That's what I was saying. Be it resolved, the staff determine a report to council for its consideration. How much money will you need to do this and carrying forward? That's all it's basically asking. If we say no to this, are we saying that if staff comes forward and says we'll need X amount of money to complete the Ennismore project, Ennismore waterfront project, that we'll vote no? We don't want any money to be toward this. All we're saying is, let us carry on. Tell us how much money you will need to carry on. That's all we're saying.
That's what you're saying in this motion, Councillor Boyko.
Yes,
But we have in our work plans exactly what this says.
but no money.
And
Budget.
But no money.
yes, I know that, but so you don't have to, I think we're duplicating efforts. It's already in the work plan. Council, staff has heard that we want this to proceed. So put something in the budget. I don't know that you need a motion to say that. Yeah. Into.
Don't you have to put it in?
Clean, Janice.
Well, quite frankly, I'm not sure how to respond to that. I think you have a motion on the table, and maybe you just need to vote on the motion.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. So just confirming here, we're not really changing anything from what I can see between the first item in the work plan for Parks and Rec versus your motion, other than you want to know what it's going to cost to complete this. And based upon the work plan and discussion here, I thought there was more organizations involved, one being Sir Sanford Fleming, and it is in the work plan, but right now they're not.
Trent is.
Trent is, yes. So, but it doesn't say Trent in here. It just says the possibility, depending on the college's program. So we don't even know if we have some of these partners able to come to the table. So it either could be a partnership or it is going to cost us money. Probably best to know how much money it's going to cost us. So I would support the motion by all means, so long as it's not spending money, just so that we know how much it will cost us before we spend it, because we need to know who these partners are.
Mhm.
Fleming, right now, we're going into, we're going into reading break. They're still looking at stocking or backing in the winter semester. They may not have students for it. They don't know what the spring semester intake's going to be, especially with that strikes going on. We've got Doug Ford is involved with this now. Who knows where the hell it's going to go? So if we can just know what it's going to cost, I'm willing to support it because I don't see us spending money by saying, what's it gonna cost?
Councillor Kulis.
So minus the disc golf, it's kind of just asking to speed things up with a report. That's my reading of it.
Can we add as per the work plans into the motion?
If I could, and
Yes.
I'm writing right off the top of my head now, let me read this motion and see, I forget who seconded it.
Ron.
You seconded, okay. Will this be okay with the seconder? It was a long time ago. Would it be okay if this motion said, I won't read the therefore up above, that stays the same, but completing the woods cleanup, boardwalk restoration, and necessary directional alterations, sign improvements as per the work plan, while renewing annual maintenance and marketing plans of the trails at the Ennismore Waterfront Park.
Are you okay with that, seconder? All right, any comments, Councillor Kulis?
I can't support this unless the disc golf is removed.
I just removed it.
I'm sorry, you did.
I just removed
Sorry,
it.
I'm reading it. Sorry.
So the way it reads now is the staff bring back report regarding budget creation process, completing the woods cleanup. That kind of is ambiguous in its
Well,
general.
completing the woods cleanup assumes, I could have listed a long list of things, assuming this, assuming this, assuming that, assuming all of that stuff, all of the stuff that, that
Can we
Councillor
say
Koulis,
habitat restoration?
and all of it, all that it involves. If we start listing one, then we got to list them all. So I'll read it again. Completing the woods cleanup, boardwalk restoration, and necessary directional alterations, signage improvements as per the existing work plans, while renewing the annual maintenance and marketing plans of the trails at the Ennismore Waterfront Park.
Have second, okay. I can support that. Councillor Coles, in your ward, you're the one doing the work. It's important that you are on side too.
Yeah, I do support this. I think the only thing I'll just voice, like what's holding me back is the idea of the woods cleanup, just because it's packaging it as a done deal at one point, and it's never going to be a done deal. So it's almost like a ceiling we'll never be able to reach. So I just like, that's my only concern, but if staff can work around that, I'm fine. with it. But-
Woods cleanup will be happening forever.
Well,
No,
but you're saying completing
Yeah,
cleanup, you're identifying, right? So that's just where I'm getting tricky here in the motion.
Madam Mayor?
no,
Oh,
if we go to the
Janice.
wording that's in the work plan, which is what we're referring to, it says habitat restoration, which is not the same as woods cleanup.
Yeah, so, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if maybe, like, I guess we want to make sure that we're not setting an expectation that
Yeah.
we can't fulfill, right?
That's right.
And the words wood cleanup, some people are going to think the woods floor is going to be
Yep.
perfectly clean. It's
Exactly.
never going to be perfectly clean. We don't want it to
Yeah.
be. So I'm wondering if in terms of how you label the project, if we go back to how it's labeled in the work plan,
That's what I'm trying to say.
so that it would be the Ennismore Waterfront Park Trails refurbishment or restoration project, and maybe just label the project as that. We know as per the work plan that it includes all of these different things. Does that
I would
work?
be happy to do that because that's essentially what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Habitat restoration
Same.
would be just fine.
Yeah, so
Completing the habitat restoration and the rest.
Forest
Yeah.
But
management.
it's more than that. It's different than that.
for sure.
Councillor Boyko.
Yeah.
So if we were to refer to it again, through you, Madam Mayor, as the Ennismore Waterfront Park and Trails refurbishment or restoration, that's kind of how it's dealt with in the work plan. So that's just a broad project that we can set the components of out.
All right, so you're okay with that?
I accept that.
You're okay with that? All right. They have a mover and a seconder, all in favor. Okay,
Okay.
now we're moving on to B.
B. Okay, if we take a look up at all the whereases, we know again that part of what was in the strategic plan, action number 8 of the recreational service plan, to continue to implement the Isabel Morris Park Master Plan landscape concept plan that was done, I think, in 2002, I think, a long time ago, with the focus of formalizing a festival and performance area scaled to the community level events. That's what we're talking about. And so therefore, it says, let us put into the budget this year a feasibility study so that we can carry this forward. But if I go back to the therefore, it says, be it resolved that staff determine and report to council for its consideration as part of the budget process, the resources needed. So therefore, what it's saying is, how much will the feasibility study cost to move this forward? If when staff comes back, reports to council and says the feasibility study will cost X, we may look at it and say, that's too much money to spend on this year's budget. We may have to put it off. If they say it will cost this, well, maybe that's reasonable. We'll carry on. That's all it is asking. How much will the feasibility study cost to move this project forward that we have already committed to having as part of our strategic plan and Parks and Recreation plan? Therefore, it says, I won't read the therefore part, conducting a feasibility study to continue the process of constructing a permanent multi-use performance space at Isabel Morris Park. So staff will determine what that feasibility study will cost and report back to council as part of our 2026 budget consideration process.
Councillor Ken,
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes.
are you gonna talk about it? And we need a second,
I'm willing to second this with some amendments.
or discussion.
Let's do all of it. Thank you. So as I do support this motion. However, I do have some concerns regarding this. I like the simplicity that you've presented this with, because this is one more time with feeling, and we're just going to argue about whether that T gets crossed or what I gets dotted by the sound of it, or discuss that, not necessarily argue. Anyways, my concerns regarding this, I have had numerous discussions with community members that want to get involved with this. A number of groups and private people that are saying they're willing to put money in this. That's wonderful. I like hearing that. And with different community groups coming forward, one of the concerns I would have, without them coming forward, if it was just a township project, it becomes Lakefield centric, which I understand we're one big, beautiful community, but there's a reason we have wards as well. And Smith may not be totally savvy with it, but there's so many community groups that are coming forward. The community as a whole, Selwyn, will benefit from it. With the potential site now, I know it's in the work plan and we've discussed it, but with the potential site, Isabel Morris Park is only so big. It only has so much parking around. I know we do have boat traffic, but if it's going to be a year-round event space, boat traffic only works for some of the time. There's only so much green space there, and it's going to turn into a Joni Mitchell song with a paved paradise going on with it. We've already got a heritage building there. Is this going to dwarf it? So I understand this is why we would do the feasibility study. With it, I want to hear consideration though, however, that maybe we consider the Paul J. English Lions Park and Bridgenorth as well in the study, because looking at it, there's a lot of green space there. Not that I want to pave it, but it might be a more opportune space. It's a little bit more central within our community. And it would just nice to see Bridgenorth be included in the process, because typically it gets the short end of the stick when it comes to budgets and other opportunities. So concerns are there other locations than one potentially within our community? 2, environmental impacts of where it could be.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Well,
Thank you, through your worship, Mr. Senes. Yeah, I think this, again, it's one of our priorities in the strategic plan to move forward. As Councillor Boyko says, at this point, we need to get a price for what the feasibility study say. Feasibility study may say Isabel Morris Park is not the best place for it. Maybe it is in Bridge North, maybe it's in Ennismore. I think that's the purpose of bringing somebody like that in to look at the space, the parking, you know, connectivity. We need sewers and those sorts of things. So I think that's part of the, again, from a budget process forward that I like is these are options that council is going to have decisions on budget process. If that comes in and it's more than council feels that they can spend on that, there are public groups that have come forward and said they will help fundraise even at this point to get money to do feasibility. So again, it's one of those that let's get a number and find out what we think that's going to cost. And then decide from there whether it can be funded through some kind of CIP or other types of funds that we already have in place, or whether we need to go out and ask these firms to help support the fundraising to get that. And then it waits a sort of thing. So somewhere we have to start the process.
So we just got the work plan that each department. And Parks and Rec has a full plate. We've just added some work to do with the Isabel Morris Park. If we end up putting money in the budget, we end up having to do this extra work. Next year, they are going to have extra work because they're going to have to deal with the installation of the arena floor. Campground, something new in that department. We've got the accessible playground, Ennismore, that is going to start next year. It's an awful lot of work to be putting on one department. And even if you do a feasibility study, they have to be involved. It involves them. So I'm suggesting that we possibly, there's no urgency for this. This could be done in 2027. I think you have to think about our staff and how much they can accomplish in a year. And if you feel that this is something that is of a priority, you might want to have to think about hiring additional staff, which is darn well going to cost more money on the budget. So I'm suggesting that this is not an urgent thing. We do have an Isabel Morris Park plan, and as John said, or Councilor Boyko said, it was brought out in 2002, I think, something like that. It's an old plan. It should really be dusted off and revamped to see if it's necessary to add to that part, because we have a lot of green space, but that park is used for many, many things because of its proximity. You know, it's a perfect park to have our jazz festival and some of these other things that we do in that park. So I'm suggesting that we maybe defer this for a year. I don't see what the urgency is myself. And before we get to looking at a feasibility study for that park, I think we should be looking at the plan to see what else is in that plan and maybe revamp it. And it wouldn't necessarily have to go to a consultant to do that because you need public input as well. So I'm not trying not to be a Debbie Downer here. And I'm trying to support what my colleagues want, but I'm hesitant in adding to the workload that is going to be very heavy next year for Parks and Rec. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. Then through follow-up, then would Councillor Boyko be interested in first that we request that all council receive a copy of the 2002 report on Isabel Morris Park so we can review it and come back to this possibly at the next council meeting. Just so everyone knows what the plan is.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I'm also looking at, if I could comment through you, Mayor Senes. I like the idea that Councillor Henry's brought forward that would alter this motion to say a performance space at Isabel Morris Park or elsewhere in Selwyn. I think that's a tremendous idea. And because I think the feasibility study could say it could be elsewhere. Also, if we think about what the motion says in the therefore, this is not being asked to Parks Recreation Department to do this. That this might go to economic development. There are other resources that could carry this forward. Looking at the feasibility study, part of the feasibility study would be, no doubt, the first step would be look at the existing Isabel Morris Park plan. That would be step one in the feasibility study. It would also be engaging the public in this study with a public meeting or however the feasibility study takes place. That does community engagement. If we would like to pause this and ask that council be given that, I'd be happy to do this and pause this if this motion could be made to come back to the next council meeting, and staff can forward to all 5 council members the existing plan.
Councillor Henry, and then I will staff.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. Much appreciated, Councillor Boyko. With that then, has there been a study or plan done for the Paul J. English Lions Park in Bridge North? Okay.
But I can go to staff to answer that question too.
No, there has not been a study done.
I'm going to ask the question, with asking that council receive a copy of the Isabel Morris Park plan. Is that something that is easily done?
Well, providing a copy of the plan, for sure, we can do that, but we've done some things. There does need to be a bit of a status update on that, right? So I don't think it's as easy as throwing a copy of the plan at all the council members. But maybe that, like, given some of the comments that have been made here, maybe that review of the status of that plan, maybe that's your first step. And maybe that's something that could be done, just reviewing that plan, where we're at, what have we done? Maybe that's your first step in 2026. It's a much smaller scope. I agree with Mayor Senes. No doubt recreation, corporate services, finance, everybody will be drawn into a feasibility study. It will, council will be drawn into that. So it will be a significant amount of time required from everybody. Next year is an election year as well. So we've got busyness from the clerk's department for that and for you folks as well. So maybe that smaller chunk of that project might be a better way to make a start and just kind of provide some information back to council in terms of the status of that Isabel Morris Park plan, what we've done, what things look like. Because you might be able to, that might help you before you even go out to some sort of feasibility study in the future, to see, is it really a good option based on what we've done and what else is left there to do.
Thank you, Mr. Worship. My past time on council was when the Bridge North Park was, there was a study done on the park with Ball Diamond, and because there was a thought of a marina there from the point. Did that include the Paul English area or strictly the Ball Diamond and soccer field? It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done a formal plan, like not something similar to the Isabel Morris Park plan. Certainly there, we did do some work when we put Frisbee fields in there, but it's just kind of been a project at a time rather than developing an overall plan for it, from my recollection anyway.
Surprising, my memory is pretty good on this one because I see the guy at the hockey game on Thursdays all the time that did the presentation to us. White beard, white hair, small guy. There was a discussion around the 2 arenas and building a double arena in Bridge North back then. And the report came back with Ball Diamond, and the soccer field was what was recommended to council. If I remember correctly. I didn't know whether that had a piece of property was involved.
Yes. Sorry, council.
That's okay. Through you.
Angie.
We could take a look in the archives. I'm not aware of any master plan for the park. There could have been, and that would have been Smith Township at the time. It wouldn't have been, I don't think, Smith and Smoore. So
There was
if it,
2 old arenas were getting to a point
yeah.
where I spent a lot of money.
Yeah, so we could take a look and see if we can find something in the archives, but nothing's ringing any bells. Sorry.
All right, so where do we sit now then? Because it's now been suggested that we have a look at the Isabel Morris Park plan and review it and update it, which is different than what's in front of us. So
If I could, Mayor Sinas, asking for that plan to be updated, we'll be asking staff to your point about, they're already, you know,
I have a hand up.
do
Sorry,
we-
I think it's just a status update of what's been done in the plan.
oh, I see.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
just to clarify, excuse me.
Okay, status update. If that could be done, I would support that. If that could be done quickly, if we could look at that in the next couple of weeks, end of the month, a month, so that if we look at it and then decide that, well, okay, maybe we could carry on with the feasibility study, but let us keep in mind the not the motion, but the idea brought forward by Councillor Henry, which is a good one, that we are looking at Isabel Morris Park, but we're also looking at other parks that maybe this stage could be. So I don't want to lose that idea simply by looking at the Isabel Morris. If we wish to, I will, well, we haven't even made the motion yet, it hasn't been seconded. We will carry on with simply asking staff to bring forward updates of the Isabel Morris plan. And when we look at that plan, we then I'm reserving the ability to then make the motion again, but amend it as Councillor Henry said.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, including potential archive documents or stone tablets from Deputy Mayor Fox.
Yeah, when I was on.
But if
council-
if those archive files exist, they could be helpful.
Councillor Cool.
Thank you. I just want to flag a couple things. Just a question of staff first is there capital funding available, like grants to be able to apply for feasibility studies for green spaces, whether it's federal or provincial? I'm just thinking if we're taking time now, maybe we have time to look.
Yeah, through you, I'm sure we can do an investigation. I can't answer that definitively, but definitely any grant that's out there, we're on it. So we can do an investigation of that. Yeah, but that would take some time. So I think going back to Janice's comment about trying to incorporate this as a 2026 work item would allow us to do a little bit of that work as well.
And then through you, I just want to flag a couple of things that as this process is unfolding that may happen coming down from the province, right? Like they're thinking right now about proposed special economic zones. You never know, something like that could happen in our township. That can speed that up. And there's a consultation happening right now on the ERO if you'd like to go comment. And yeah, then I was just wondering if there are opportunities for grants, if we were looking at those, but I personally couldn't find anything related to this. So if that does end up in the work plan, that'd be great. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, if there are no other comments, can I please hear what the motion is now?
There is no motion. Hasn't been seconded, so therefore there's no
No,
motion.
I did second.
Oh, he did second. Okay. If we wish, we could just withdraw the motion in terms of this report coming forward with respect to the Isabel Morris Park, if you will.
Through Mayor Science, yes.
Yeah, with the right to bring it forward in the future.
I'm sorry.
We need a motion to bring forth the Belmont, the council.
And now I will make that motion, since I've removed the first one, with the right to bring, not the right, but the ability to bring forward this motion, depending on whatever comes, is that we are asking staff if they will bring forward an updated Isabel Morris Park plan that updates the 2002, I think I'm right, 2002 plan of what has been done since and what it kind of looks like now. We're not asking for a great deal, but just sketch something on the map that makes it look like here's what's there now. Does that make sense to staff before we ask
All
for it?
right, so Angie.
I'm sorry, Councillor Boyko, I think we're all confused what you're proposing as a.
What I'm
the-
proposing is what
the-
we've been talking about, and that is we have an Isabel Morris Park plan, And the idea was let council see what it is. And then the point was made, but a lot of been changes made since 2002, so we can update it. So all we're asking for is, what does Isabel Morris Park look like now, according to the plan? Is that what was, yeah, is that what
And
the
when,
discussion was?
and when, sorry, and just to clarify, and when would you like that brought forward?
Sorry. Through you, Mayor Senator, we're having a conversation. But the plan exists now. So
We can provide the plan now. That's not a problem.
perfect.
But so is that what the motion is?
That's all I need is as a copy of, I've seen the plan. I saw the plan a couple of weeks ago. But for the rest of council to see the 2002 map of the park.
So the motion is that council be provided with a copy of the current Isabel Morris Park Master Plan.
Perfect.
And potentially any other archived information regarding.
Other park
And
plans.
that staff review other archived master plans for Paul J. English.
Not sure if you have to review it. We just want to be able to see it so we can review it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if they exist. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if
So
they're,
it's a
Yeah.
potential.
So when could that be done by?
well, we can provide the existing Isabel Morris Park Plan quickly. The archive work might take a bit of time.
yeah,
Fine.
Yes, yep. Because there may not be anything.
I don't think there is.
So that's what you're.
So all the motion is could you please share with council the Isabel Morris Park Plan? And if possible, see if there are any other park plans that can be shared with council.
So you're moving that, seconded by Councillor Henry. All in favor? It's carried. Okay. We'll move on to, yeah.
Thank you through Mayor. Shared the motions with everybody prior to the meeting and package. The first motion deals with setting up a not-for-profit project-specific $10,000 grant program from the 2026 budget that would further support and promote volunteer growth and viability within the municipality. You know, I've heard from a number of groups in the last year and a half, volunteer groups that are struggling. They're having a lot of challenges getting new volunteers. They're having challenges getting the many, many hundreds and maybe thousands of hours of work they do in the community to beautify the community, take care of gardens, put on festivals, those sorts of things. So I think the loss of volunteers in Buckhorn has cost that municipality and ourselves. We've had to put $15,000 into capital new equipment to try and reduce the cost of managing the beautification of Buckhorn area. And the municipality is now doing all of the work on the gardens and so on. So we're very fortunate to have many of these groups still putting up their hand to do that work, technically on behalf of the municipality. Beautifies the municipality, provides economic development opportunities, supports tourism. I think this is a first step. I'd like to see the creation of the application and evaluation criteria include a member of council that can help sort of look at what that program should look like. I've left it fairly vague at this point because I would like that to come back to council with a recommendation on how that would how those funds would be dispersed. And I think the grant program can come from a lesser contribution to the CIP program, which is annually about 75,000. We've got about 5 years of $75,000 in that account. So reducing it by 10,000 will have almost no impact on any forward with that. And that the grant be a top-up grant each year. So if only $3,000 of the 10,000 are used in 2026, then only 3,000 would be added in 2027 to top it back up to 10,000. So it won't be an accumulation like a reserve type thing. It would be capped out at 10 grand on an annual basis, and just topped up each year. So I'll leave it at that. I'll make that motion.
Henry?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanas. Thank you for bringing this forward, Deputy Mayor Black. I do see the need that the township may need to be allocating more funds to our volunteer groups, as our volunteer numbers are dwindling clearly. And this can boost morale. It can be used in a number of supportive measures. And the amounts that we've been doing so far, they are spread out through line items in the budget, whether it's the water that's going to the gardens in Lakefield, Buckhorn, Bridge North, and Ennismore. There's a number of spots where we are putting money to it, and there's no doubt that it's going to have to increase. Concerns with that, though, is right now, if we're going to be getting into, like, I don't know if the 10, like, obviously we're asking staff for another report. We're going to look at a $10,000 amount. How are we going to allocate that still has to be decided. And obviously some of our groups are struggling, and it's quite possible that we would have to do a review of their bookkeeping. What are you doing with the money that's already going to you? As well, with it coming out of the CIP, my concern right now is, money's being set aside right now with the CIP are going to be going to Bridge North next with the extension of sidewalks, and the project is starting next year. So not to say that all that money is being allocated for Bridge North, but the experience so far is that whenever we have a project for $100,000, it's always 175 when it's done. That has to be protected for use in Bridge North. Yeah, they get the short end of the stick, or sometimes it's like that relative that showed up at Thanksgiving dinner on the weekend. We should do this more often. We don't see them next Thanksgiving. And yeah, so I just want to make sure. That's how I understand it. I just want to make sure that Bridge North isn't going to be impacted by that. You know, defensively, I could say that's my ward. Well, how much are we going to take from Ennismore or take from Lakefield to support that? It is something, though, that I do believe needs to be considered of how we're going to approach it. We should probably take a total look at all monies that we are spending right now on our community groups, whether it's through the grants, water, so we know what we're actually spending and how it's being spent, and then know where we're going with funding opportunities.
So, actually, I didn't have a second. Oh, you just seconded it.
Yes, apparently you didn't hear me. Yeah, no, thank you, through you, Mayor Sanas. I was going to second it before I went into my ramble there,
The
but
way
I
you were
did.
talking, sound like you were seconding.
Appreciated. I do second it. However, caveats, friendly amendments, want to look at this.
So.
A bit, yeah. Thank you. Yes, we definitely want some questions moving forward to further study. So again, possibly something to come back at next council meeting or on the November 11th one, whichever time allotting for staff. How much money are we actually spending right now on our community groups, whether it's through direct grants or with the water being provided to the different groups that do flower maintenance, things like that? How much are we spending as a total for our volunteer groups, and how it's being allocated? And then moving forward, we can take a look at it. Groups that are having problems, that are potentially saying that they're in financial constraint, we're going to have to maybe assist them, whether it's financially going through the books with them, or, you know, there has to be a process of passing this money out.
So. No, I know, but he's suggesting something different, so. I said to him, he said amendment, and his amendment is totally not what is. Yeah.
If I could, just to put it on the table, I will second the motion as written. And now we can talk.
Just second. He seconding it, he was talking, so, but anyway, okay, let's finish with him.
I think we have a couple of seconders now.
Yeah.
So I've had time to get my thoughts together, I think. Definitely willing to support this for the reasons that I'd previously stated. We do need assistance here by our groups. Again, though, I want to know how much we are totally putting out. We have various budget line items for departments that certain things have money that's already being allocated to our groups. How much are we actually allocating, and what areas can we increase in? Cash is one thing in lieu of sweat equity or whatever township staff as well as number of coaching. So definitely support it, but I want some more.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor Black.
Your worship. So I think there's a bit of complaining, with respect to what the CIP is right now. Those projects that you talked about will not qualify for the CIP program staff. We haven't created the public CIP at this point. The current CIP is strictly for small business.
It's for the public realm as well.
When was it? That was last
That,
year.
that was in last year's budget. Yes, so that so actually what's in that reserve is about, I think, 162,000 in the public realm for CIP.
So
Correct. Yes, for, I believe it's about 257-ish.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
I'm talking about the other one, 257-ish.
Yes. Is where, sorry?
That's where the 10,000.
Sorry. Sorry, actually, yeah, so it wouldn't come out of the reserve.
No,
It would come out of the annual allocation that we provide to the CIP program, which is $75,000 a year.
But whatever was passed went into the public realm, which is for everyone. And that's
Sorry.
why we have
Yeah, whatever wasn't used was put into the CIP reserve to support small businesses. And then your recent decision that affected
Yes.
this year's budget, the unused portion now is put into a public realm CIP.
Right.
That's new. Yes.
So the money is separate.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Dennis is talking to me as well. That money, the public realm CIP, would be used to support the Bridge North Ward Street project. Yes.
And $160,000 doesn't go very far when you got to put in sidewalks, benches, trees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Correct? Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
That part. So it's not.
Councillor Boyko.
All that said, the reason that I support the budget is, or this motion, sorry, is that there are many groups that and this is not for profit projects. So this isn't building sidewalks and things like that. This is the not for profit projects. And if I could use one example, the community garden in Lakefield that is right beside the public school in Lakefield. They grow vegetables. There are volunteers who work there, and they give the vegetables that they harvest to the food bank in Lakefield. They are one of the groups, one of many groups, I think there's 26 or 27 groups that apply for a grant. And then all we have done in the past is divided the amount of money we've got by the number of applicants we've got, and then everybody gets $200 something, whatever it was. What this is saying, if I am, and I asked Councillor Deputy Mayor Black to tell me if I'm misinterpreting it, what this is saying is that, yes, that would continue, but maybe the community garden people, and I'm using them just as an example, could say, we could have much better project that we have going here if we could have $5,000 to do this, whatever this is, 1 year. My God, it would change everything and make us so much more effective. We could get $200 for the next 50 years, but this is one project would work. And it could be any other nonprofit group in the whole township, so that we could give them something that would really give them the seed money to get going a new group, or this for a new project that we can't give them now with the way that we allocate the funds now. If I am understanding this correctly, then I am very much in support of that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, I purposely made this somewhat vague because I think special projects are important, but there are groups out there that are struggling to manage what they have today. They're losing volunteers, their ability to raise fundraising is limited. So I purposely put in there that the creation of the application and evaluation period would include input from members of council, because we hear from the public about what they need. It's not just me, it's going forward. And that criteria be presented to council on how that money to be applied for. And that criteria might say, once a year, we'll accept applications. So again, it's not taking up a lot of time and come with a recommendation to council on which project would be approved for the year. Maybe it's every 6 months, it'll open up for 30 days. So I think the use of the 10 new projects are great, but there's existing organizations out there that are struggling with the projects they currently have and need some support for that. Whether that's gifts in kind as far as helping them with maintenance or something like that, or dollars, I think it's all part of it.
Through you, I have an amendment, but I just don't know where this sits. I don't know if we have, I don't know where we're at. Do you actually amend it, or? Like, I don't know where we're at in the process.
Is it clarification?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Sens. Yes, thank you for the clarification. And just confirming that and going back, this is coming from the public funds. Why do we call it public? Public realm.
No, the other way.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Not exactly. So every year through taxation support, we allocate $75,000 to the community improvement plan. Any unspent money goes into the public realm CIP reserve. So if we're reducing it by 65,000, if this motion were to move forward, then there potentially would be less money going into, if all the money wasn't spent in the year for CIP programs to support small business, potentially there would be less money going into the CIP public realm. You're already reducing it now to 65,000. So it's just important to understand that you're reducing the potential contribution into the public realm CIP.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Councillor Coolidge.
Sorry. So sorry, is it okay as part of this process that I now support an amendment, proposed amendment? So just a bit of backdrop here too. It's every time we've had this conversation, it's usually stalled by my question of like, can we do this? And I've never followed up on it because it wasn't me who brought it forward. So this time I've overstepped. I've gone and followed up. We can do it. So I'm wanting to go back to Deputy Mayor Black's original conversations that we've had over the years of just continuing with what we have, the current grant, municipal grant, and just upping the money. And I can read the amendment in a minute, but I want to read the rationale here because my rationalization here, because there's a couple things that are contradictive in the current motion. So when we say that we want these groups to be able to have money, but they don't have the capacity, when we're asking them to do a project specific grant, you're asking them to focus on a new project. And they may not have the capacity to do that. So I'm worried that us setting it up that way is actually going to deter people. So, and if there's a political side of this too, whereas if we have one member of council making decisions ahead of it coming to council, who knows who's going to be in that position, number one. Number two, after the election, it may not be any of us. And so there could be politics there between the wards of who's going to get the money and why. So I'm very worried about that. And then backing up further, I really think that should be within the staff's hand acting as neutral actors in the process. So that's where I'm iffy on the idea of identifying specific groups and like only giving one group. So that's the way I'm reading it right now, the $5,000. So and like the application process that we have right now, like it's very bare minimum, but we do ask for things that every group who could accept these funds, like they have to provide the information in me. So it's meeting it's a bare minimum standard that they're already meeting. And I honestly think we should continue with it. So currently it's like they provide financial It's putting into the community. So they're providing information of what they already have. So they have to have an account. They have to identify that it's going to the community. It has to be within the community. The group has to be situated in the community and it's going to benefit the community, promoting the well-being and enhancing the quality of life of this community. It's also assisting with other communities who are facing specific crisis situations, overwhelming magnitude. So the example they have in the current policy is the ice storm. So it's still relatable. Update that with 2025 ice storm, to provide recognition to individuals or teams making extraordinary accomplishments. So like really this captures more than just a specific project, which could be complicated and reduce the amount of applicants. So I might as well, I'll just read it. I have to meet my kid off the bus at 3:20. So, so I've taken what you've written and I've added text and removed text. And so what it is cleaned up is, therefore, be it resolved that Selwyn Township increase the fundings of the municipal grant programs in the 2026 budget that would further support and promote volunteer growth and viability within the municipality. Grant program funds will be made available by reducing the 75,000 annual allocation to the community improvement program by 10 grand, which will cause no impact to the 2026 taxation. So what I'm asking is we actually increase it from 5 to 10K, and then that moves forward. I want to put the caveat, I thought about asking for this as a pilot for 1 year, because we're going into an election. My worry there is that it's going to come back to council and we decide to say no, because then we're going to be like, oh, we're not going to support this. So I would like to see it go forward and it's always 15 grand. So just making that clear.
$10,000 to what we are buy from this, and then people apply for that. Not for profit.
Yeah, and it's more people getting money. It's more. So it's 3 times more. So it's 240 was what we handed out to the groups this year. I can't remember how many groups we had. So just times that by 3. I know it seems like peanuts, but it's still more than just one group getting 5 grand, doing a project, taking on more work, and then back to us in a few years asking for more money that we are bailing them out. Like, I just worry that that's what this. Or we take. That's quick.
Thank you. Through your Mayor Sanis, there's three points I wish to make. One, Councillor Cool said that this is referring to new projects. I don't see where it says new projects. Maybe I've missed it.
Not for project specific 10K grant. So when you have project in there, it's a project specific grant. It means you have to define what your project is.
Right. So that's fine. And I think I'm reading it properly where it says the council is participating, a counselor is participating with staff just in the creation of the criteria, not in deciding who gets the money. And the other thing is I would be uncomfortable about voting on Councillor Coulis's motion because all these other motions, we had time to look at them. So I would want this to be, if we're going to move forward to this, I would want that to be a notice of motion that we can think about too.
Yeah, thanks for those thoughts, Councillor Coulis. I think one of the challenges with that is I've heard more specific examples of where a larger amount would be needed to help. And we're just taking 15,000 and spreading it around by 25. And there may be more people apply. I think I'm gonna take the time to write the application because it used to be $200 at a time, and now we've got 35 applying for it, and now it's them to work on it. I don't know that it achieves what I'm trying to achieve here, which is have groups come forward with something very specific. Okay, when I say project, that doesn't mean it has to be something new. If they have an existing project that needs some support, I think that could be applied to. But that's again where I want staff and a member of council put their hand up to come up with the criteria. What is that mean? I mean, I could have worded that project specific a little bit differently to say a not-for-profit program grant, without saying project specific, I guess. But the idea behind this is to leave the 5,000 alone. It's non-political. Everybody gets a little piece that wants to apply, but this is for groups to come forward for different reasons. They have something new they want to do. They have an existing program that they're struggling, need some support that, supports the community. They need some help, where they have volunteers currently doing work, in the community that, rather than give them dollars, we support them with some grass cutting support or, something like that. That could be part of these dollars too. It doesn't have to be actual dollars. It would go in the budget, capture that. So, those are the types of things I feel that would be most supportive of those groups now at this point. The other route is very apolitical. No decisions by council to make. And there may be decisions we have to select, 2 or 3 out of 5 out of 5. That we get on the political, of course, but that's what we're here for, is to decide which projects we think are for the biggest impact and the biggest benefit. But I think just spreading it thin, it may get thinner because of people saying, oh, we're 5 or 6 hundred don't apply, versus getting the 200. So appreciate the amendment. I just don't think it hits to the main focus of what my
Seeing none, I have an amendment that I would like to forward with regards to motion, and it would be, where it says the creation of an application and evaluation criteria would be developed by staff and presented to council for consideration and implementation in the 2026 budget year. The reason that I've got that change is setting a precedent by having one member of council be involved in this. The due process is the staff brings the reports and we all vote on. So I would like to see that amended with that. And
As a seconder, I'd support that.
I have one further in this motion where it says, in the third area, third from the bottom, if all the funds, it should say from the new annual grant, because I don't want to get it confused with any other grants. Yeah.
And as the seconder, I support that too.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? It's right now 6 with those and your comments.
Just want to be clear, it's Councillor Boyko is the seconder on this motion. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I was the seconder because I think that what Councillor Henry was asking for is absolutely legitimate, but could be asked for separate from this motion. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so option number 2.
I'll ask a question if I could, and
Seconding.
well, depends on the question. Um, okay.
Really should
Well,
have-
in that case, I'll second it and ask the question. So that I can ask my question. So a question of clarification, if I could, through you, Mayor Sanis, to the move of the motion then. So is this saying that a staff is looking at not all trails that will be, well, what we're talking about is plowed in the winter, because there's many trails that are in the township that it would be, not practical. Like we were just talking for a long time about the Ennismore waterfront trail. We're not going to be plowing those in the winter, but there might be a paved trail here that the sidewalk plow is going around, and why not just plow that one while he's at it, which would cost very little more than what we are already putting toward. Is that the purpose of the motion, and that the staff would be asked to say, let's try it out on this trail, that trail, a couple of trails? Is that the purpose of the motion?
Thank you, through Mayor. No, I think at this point, I'm not suggesting any trail to be used for months. I think that will be up to the group that gets together to talk about all of the trails in the township. This isn't centric to Innismore or Lakefield or Bridgewater. We have a lot of trails that are out there. Some of them, it's not even considered that it would be done in the winter time. But there are some that may be considered for maintenance in winter months. I would want to leave that up to the committee to come back with a recommendation to council and a cost, obviously, to do that for 2027 at this point. But this work can be done over the next year or so, and the report come back to council, and there may or may not be trails that way in 4 months or 4 seasons.
Okay.
Couple things that I have another, it's a friendly name. Okay. It goes back to due process again, where talk about the trails, the last sentence. Trails review will be completed by utilizing the expertise of Selwyn staff, with opportunity being provided for feedback on the draft recommendations from members of the public and knowledgeable trail volunteers in the community. We have to include the public. It can't just be knowledgeable and staff always come to us with these recommendations. We shouldn't have an outside group that are the ones that are driving the bus. So I would want that amendment supported. And before I finish, having said that, we are now involving staff in yet another work project. Yeah, it goes on the work plans, as you said, but I've already made the comment about all the work that Parks and Rec are going to be doing next year. Or how I feel like we're overloading to the point where there's going to be the inability to accomplish what we're trying to do in the first place. And in the meantime, breaking the backs of some of our staff. So I would prefer that we defer this. I don't see what the urgency is again until 2027. And the other thing that I haven't really talked about is the insurance and liability implications for this. I won't get into details. Council's very aware of any issues to do with things happening with talking closed and I think so anyway, I still think that there's no urgency to this the next year, given all the other projects that this.
Thank you for those comments. We are hiring another full-time manager, Parks and Recreation Department, to support the it's on yet. I'll sit for it. Okay. Yeah, we are hiring a person according to the preliminary budget for Parks and Recreation to help support the trailer park. So I think there is some additional staff coming in there. Purpose of the last line is I didn't want this again to be another outside consultant brought in to look at this for us. I think we have enough people in the community to help develop it and make recommendations. And again, get public input. Those volunteers are the public. These are folks that work with the people that use the trails and maintain the trails every day for us. So there is public, input at that point through the leaders of these trail committees that we have in the township already. So I think we can reword it to include the public, but I think, again, the purpose of it is I don't want this to become a consultant's report. I don't think we need to spend the money on that. I think the recommendations can come from people that already know what's there. We don't need somebody else to map it for us again and do all that stuff. So I think that's there. The extra workload, certainly, these are 3 recommendations that came forward, and the top 5 recommendations within our strategic and recreation plan are to do with trails. So if we're going to do anything moving forward with respect to that, probably should be on trails. So I'm asking simply for a report over the next 12 to 14 months on what that might look like. And we're still not looking at anything until 2027. We delayed it another year. Now it's 2028 to go. So some of the stuff I'm asking for is kind of pre-planning to move forward. It's like the band shell thing.
Yeah.
We got to start somewhere, and we start with smaller pieces first. And then the bigger piece might be, we'll have to go back to council.
So I'm confused as to whether you support my amendment.
As the seconder, I support the amendment.
I can support the amendment again, as long as the folks from the trail committees are part of developing the plan. If that's the way it's worded.
I say the trails review will be completed by utilizing the expertise of Selwyn staff with opportunity being provided for feedback on the draft recommendations from members of the public and knowledgeable trail volunteers. They're not driving the bus, they're
Okay.
be on the bus.
They're going to be on the bus. Okay, I can support the amendment in that case.
Sorry, Henry, do you have any?
No.
And,
Sorry, through you. And are we leaving 2026 work plan or 2027? Sorry, just to be clear.
Yep.
So.
For,
Sorry.
so,
Yeah, so I think the mayor's friendly amendment was to 2027 and including the public input, which the seconder agreed to. So I'm just trying to get clarity over what the amended motion is being voted on.
no, I didn't hear the 2027. I think it's a 2026 work plan. We're looking at what it says. But before any trail is maintained in the winter, if indeed it ever is, it'll be 2027. So all we're doing is looking at it in 2026. Yeah, that's my understanding. The only part of the amendment that I heard was the final sentence.
Maybe I wasn't there because I did make the comment about how busy that department's gonna be, because regardless of who on staff works on it, they've got to be put into this. And again, putting a really heavy workload on them next year, our expectations might not be met, so I end up having it on the work plans and saying not completed or whatever, so as long as you recognize that, because that's right.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanas. I guess I just want to speak to Mr. Richardson here, who's been stretching his arms and yawning quite a bit. A year from now, how are you going to be there, Mike?
Yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, a lot of things can change and certainly would change if another staff member was brought on board. Some of this, just searching our P drive right now, some of these documents are there. We're talking about Morris Park. I know there is some work being done through the county level about various trails and active transportation again. Uh, If it's requested that we have it on our work plan for 2026, that we do an evaluation of the trails and classifications, then we will find a way to get it done. It might mean, it might mean taking something else off, but
Yeah, I'd just like to qualify that statement because, yes, we'd love to be able to do everything you want us to do and get it all done well and completely, but reality is there's only so many people in the department. Mike's department is specifically very busy next year. Yes, we do have a new person, but we have to remember we've already got some pretty high expectations on that person. We have the new campground, operations. We have the floor, we have the playground. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? So, we often wind up with things on the work plan that we just can't complete, but loading it up full well knowing that we probably aren't going to complete it. I hate to see us all set up for failure, right? So I think we just need to really be cognizant of time, because as much as we want to be able to do everything, we are only just human as well.
So you're going to take the last part of my big one, 26. Right. Comment?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. I'm looking forward to next year at this time when there's a new council sitting here and they blame us for whatever went sideways the year before.
Anyway, all right, I will call the vote in favor of that motion.
That's my fault. Okay, yeah, I will start over again. So the motion deals with the report that Janice Lally, our CAO, provided in December of 2024 to us with a list of 17 potential properties that have some development potential and maybe surplus to the township needs. This is kind of brought forward for me because of a lot of discussion around the asset management plan that we are going to be approving different stages moving forward, which will require a lot of money to be brought in reserves to fund assets replacements and so on down the road. I would like to know that the township has looked at all options for how to raise those dollars as opposed to have it strictly come out of taxation and additional levies on the annual tax bill. And so, in speaking with staff on this one, there is some of the 17, there's a number that are very challenging. There are a few there that have some potential, but also need some work done on them ahead of time. That work might be looking at environmental issues, that might be looking at internally rezoning the property. So again, it has better property value, better sale value for the township. And of course, talking to the public about the use of those properties moving forward. So the resolution's fairly simple, that be resolved that the 2026 work plan be developed to provide for review of additional properties that have been identified for potential disposition to determine the feasibility and feasibility out and the most suitable approach for disposition of each given its specific circumstances in accordance with the township real estate disposal bylaw. So really, the gist of that is, let's look at the 17, let's pick a few that have development potential, have staff work through planning issues, any environmental issues that might be on the property, to identify those things prior to sell, because that will make them more valuable if those things are already taken care of. Developers want shovel-ready properties. They don't want to spend 3 years doing an OP and an O and ZBO and all of the other stuff that goes along, and have their money tied up for 3 years on a property. I think some of ours, we can do that ahead of time and make them much, much more valuable. And have shovels in the ground on those properties once they're sold. So that's the impetus for the motion.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. I'll second the motion, so we can discuss things. And with it being seconded, are we going to make amendments to bylaw 2004-97? Which is Corporation of the Township of Smith Ennismore Lakefield. So that tells you how old it is. Plus 97. Whether we're ready to amend our real property disposal bylaw to be able to move forward with this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think well, I'm sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, we would just need to follow the provisions in our bylaw as we move through any potential sale.
And follow up, does that allow us to work with private realtor or to realtors, or would that keep it in-house?
We can determine the best way to dispose of a property. Council can determine that as part of the process.
Thank you.
Right, any other comments? By Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councilor Henry. Favor. It's carried. Is there any other business under finish? Our one bylaw authorizing by clerk.
Yep, thank you. 67, it's an authorizing bylaw for a funding agreement for the arena, Ennismore Arena floor replacement.
Right. Have someone do that. Second by Deputy Black, all in favor, it's carried. Motion. Councilor Henry moving, Councilor Boyko seconding, all in favor, it's carried. Vote